That's the knock always against Superman, that he's boring, right? Because he can do anything. And so, I felt like the way to kind of combat that was to sort of show really just the result of being a Boy Scout in some ways, like trying to do the right thing can also be like a disaster.
Hey everyone, I hope 2023 is treating you well. I ended last year with a video on Man of Steel, which I only just managed to get out before Christmas, thank you Warner Brothers. And now I'm starting this year off with a video on the follow-up to Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, a movie adored by audiences and hailed as one of the greatest superhero movies of all time. Oh yeah, I forgot. Look, I'm just gonna get this out of the way. I actually like this movie. I don't adore it as much as I did when it first came out, and I have started to notice a few things that bug me on a rewatch, but overall, yeah, this is pretty good. I like the action, I like the story, and I like the characters. Even this guy. I mean, yeah, Eisenberg could reel it in a bit, but I still like this interpretation. And yeah, I know this movie rubs some fans the wrong way, and I'm sorry, I guess? I think this and The Last Jedi are the two movies that really split their fan bases apart, and have been debated over almost to death on YouTube. But I'm continuing on from my Man of Steel video and discussing how BVS portrays Superman. I think this movie does a really good job of continuing Superman's story. This movie takes the story from Man of Steel and basically flips it on its head. If that movie is about Superman learning to accept Earth as his home, then Batman v Superman is about the Earth learning to accept him. Also, when I started writing for this video, I really didn't know how much I wanted to say about this movie because, well, there's a lot to say about this movie. So this video is going to solely focus on Superman and his character arc, and I'll do videos on other characters later on. So if you're wondering why I'm not talking about Batman a lot here, that's why. Alright, on to the video. In the previous video, I discussed how Superman goes through the positive change arc. He learns to let go of the lie that he's an outcast and a freak, and accepts that he's part of Earth, and the powers that he's been given can be a force for change and progress. Now in this movie, his arc goes from a change arc to a flat arc. While the change arc is about a character learning to let go of a lie that they believe, the flat arc is where a character who believes the truth about himself changes the world around them. This works very well as a follow-up since Superman has already learned the truth about himself in the previous movie, so he doesn't need to learn it again. And now his arc is about getting others to see the truth that he believes. Still not convinced? Well, as Wyland writes, the flat arc protagonist will be confronted with the tremendous opposition. He will at times be shaken, his commitment to the truth will be tested to the breaking point, but he will never step away from it. Which is basically what Superman goes through in this movie, with him having to face a world that doesn't believe in progress, that any notion of good is only temporary, and nothing can change. This is the lie that the world believes, the lie that Superman must confront, and where his commitment to the truth will seriously be tested. Man of Steel ended with the world being introduced to the Superman, and now this movie is about the consequences of that, the growing pains of adapting to this new status quo. Superman's very existence changes everything for humanity, an all-powerful being that doesn't answer to any governing body. That is such a huge change in the world, and one that isn't taken lightly. We see this at the beginning of the movie with the coldest title card of all time, Metropolis. Mankind is introduced to the Superman, framing the character as more of a concept than an actual person. We see the Battle of Metropolis from Bruce Wayne's point of view, and see just how shocking and horrifying this event is to the ordinary people witnessing gods do battle. A huge contrast to how this fight was portrayed in Man of Steel, where it seems like more of a fight between good and evil, highlighting just how humanity views this new godlike being, and just how far Superman needs to go in order to be accepted. Throughout the movie, Superman tries to stick to his morals and be a force for good, constantly trying to do the right thing by helping those who are in need, essentially trying to be that force for progress. But he has to face a world that believes the lie, which is shown through politicians, media personalities, the 1%, or even Perry at the Daily Planet. Those that don't believe in a brighter future and are stuck in this pessimistic worldview, which cries to the movie's entire theme: does Superman belong in a modern world? Ever since his inception, Superman has always stood for truth, justice, and the American way, which in today's age is a lot harder to define than it was when Superman was first created.
When the planet was founded, it stood for something, Perry.
And so could you if it was 1938, but it's not 1938.
This is probably highlighted in the really good montage of Superman saving people around the world, performing classic Superman heroics from the comics and trying to show the world that he is a force for good, which is intercut with debates about him and his actions on the news, discussing his place in the world, what his true intentions are, and overall trying to make him out to be a dangerous figure, completely contradicting all of his heroic actions. Everything he does is met with a level of criticism by those trying to reinforce the lie, and that weighs on him hard. He clearly just wants to do the right thing, to be that symbol of progress that he was told he could be in the last movie, but convincing the world of that is a lot harder than he thought. This lie is best represented through Lex Luthor, a billionaire with a huge corporate empire who gains everything he wants in the movie through fear and intimidation. And so if you have someone who benefits greatly from the status quo, then of course he'll view Superman's very existence as a threat, a being who represents change and progress. Lex's cruel and nihilistic worldview doesn't allow room for Superman. He can't comprehend that a being with that much power can be a force for good, and so he does everything he can to tear him down. But I think Superman hits his lowest point here. It's here that Superman is truly hit with the lie. Everyone was gathered because of him. The bomber was there to testify against him. There's this really good scene where he helps as many of the wounded as possible, but feels the weight of all of those who died in the explosion, seeing Lois in the distance, the woman he loves, and feeling nothing but shame. Superman's grasp on the truth is at its weakest. He tells Lois that Superman was never real, just a dream of a farmer from Kansas. Despite Lois's insistence that Clark wasn't to blame, he doesn't listen, ending the conversation with, "My world doesn't exist anymore." He's beginning to believe that he really isn't part of the world, so close to believing the lie. It's when he talks to his mum or Lois or even the memory of his dad that he's able to ground himself again and remind himself of the truth. Because when you feel down, it's usually your family that you turn to for guidance. And that's exactly what Clark does in these scenes. They give him the strength to carry on. His mum gives him the strength to face Congress and be held accountable to his actions, even if that doesn't go well. And after he's exiled himself from society, the memory of his father reminds him to keep moving forward, despite the struggles he has to go through. Both characters remind Clark that there's still good in the world that's worth fighting for. In fact, it's Clark's family that ultimately help him perform his biggest change in the world, when he changes Batman. I kinda wanna save talking about Batman for his own video, but the short version is that Batman believes the lie that things can't progress, that any good in the world is only temporary, and because of this, Batman is causing more harm than good. He's no longer acting like the character we know from the comics. He's acting like a villain. He sees Superman as a threat who can and will eventually turn on the world, and so he begins a crusade against him. And in turn, Superman sees Batman's actions and views him as a villain, beginning a crusade against him, both as Superman and Clark Kent. And when the two finally fight and Superman tries to appeal to Bruce's reason, it doesn't work. He tries to get him to listen through brawn, and it doesn't work. But you know what does work? When he appeals to something deeper inside of Batman. The sole reason he began his crusade against crime all those years ago, a son's love for his mother. Reawakening something inside of Batman that had been beaten out of him by the lie the world believes. I know a lot of people point this particular scene out for why they hate this movie, and yeah, it's a little clunky and could have been set up better. I'll get into that another time. But thematically, it works very well as an example of Superman making the world better through his truth. He helps Batman rediscover his humanity by showing him his. Superman's truth has now led him to find an ally in Batman, and oh, I guess Wonder Woman's here.
She with you?
I thought she was with you.
Superman is now able to stand among friends, no longer alone, to face Doomsday, a creature born of Lex Luthor's lie, full of hatred and rage that lashes out furiously at everyone. In the end, Doomsday is defeated by three very different heroes coming together to fight for a common cause. But to show his dedication to the truth and defeat this abomination, Superman sacrifices himself, using the very weapon that was made to kill him, and using it in defense of a world that hated him, inspiring others to become better, to progress. He gives Batman a whole new lease on life, which is in stark contrast to what it was earlier in the movie.
How many good guys are left? How many stayed that way? Man is still good.
He inspires Wonder Woman to come out of hiding, which we see in the next movie, and use her powers to serve humanity. And we see millions gathered in Metropolis, ready to pay tribute to the man who believed in them. Superman's portrayal in this movie is divisive, to say the least. A lot of people weren't expecting such a downbeat version of the character, and many consider his story too bleak and depressing. And while he is a bit broody, I don't think those critics really got the point. This Superman tries to be that symbol of hope that we know from the comics, but the world around him is so untrusting and critical that it really makes him question his relevance. It's difficult to stick to your guns when the world is telling you you're wrong, but this version makes it through that darkness, and is able to shine through as that beacon of hope that the character has always been. It would have been easy for the movie to have been set in a more optimistic world, but that would really rob Superman's story of its impact. The world's gotta start off in a really negative spot if it's meant to get better, and Superman having to face that nihilism and keep striving for a better tomorrow makes this honestly one of the most inspirational versions of the character. You can disagree with me if you want, but that's just how I feel, and I know I'm not alone in that opinion. So yeah, if you don't like this version of Superman, then that's okay. I hope this video got you to understand a different point of view, and maybe appreciate this version of Superman a little bit more. Hey everyone, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like. I'll be posting a new video in a few weeks, and here's a sneak preview for that.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
So if you're interested in seeing that, please subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Have a good day.